a quick recap. So I started with the block diagram of a satellite, and I first talked about the repeaters or the transponders in the satellite. So repeaters, the function of a repeater is very important, that it takes the input and it takes the input, and after filtering it, the low noise amplifier amplifies it. The mixer stage is actually to convert this frequency to a downlink frequency, then a filtration, then amplification, and then high power amplifier, and then again final filtering and sending. Now, these repeaters are of two types, I told you. One is a transparent and the other is active. Transparent does only two important functions of frequency conversion and amplification. But when it comes an active repeater, the transponder, what it does is it not only converts the frequency to a downlink frequency, but also does an amplification, but also does the 3R operation, that is a baseband processing, by first demodulating it, doing the processing, again modulating it, converting it to the downlink frequency and sending it. Here, one point that I missed out in the last class is this conversion can be a single conversion or a double conversion. Single conversion means that you only have one mixer. It's not that transparent repeaters are single converters. I've taken the two examples on a separate diagram. So when it is a 6.4 gigahertz, you need only one converter to convert your 6 gigahertz to a 4 gigahertz and then do the remaining processing and send it back. It could be here or it could be in this case. But when it is 12 gigahertz, that is this is the C band and the Ka band. So what is happening is 1412, if I directly do the conversion to the downlink frequency immediately in one conversion, we actually need all these processing to be or all the operations to be carried out at a very large frequency of say 12 gigahertz, and that becomes very costly in terms of the components required, and it's not so well established to give you a good result. So what is done is this 1412 gigahertz system, the first mixer with a 13. Okay, so the 1412 gigahertz, the first thing that is done is with the first mixer, it is converted into a 1 gigahertz, that we call it as an intermediate frequency. So this intermediate frequency, all the processing is done. This intermediate frequency, all the processing is done in IM frequency, all the processing is done, and then while sending it down, we again use a mixer to convert this 1 gigahertz to a 12 gigahertz by a mixer of 11 gigahertz. So what we are getting in this process is a system which is more efficient, which is low cost, as well as but requires an additional stage. Therefore these repeaters are called as DC, that is a double converter, and such are called as single converter. Now please don't confuse with the way I have written. I have just written it to show you the example is, it's not that transparent repeaters are 6.4 gigahertz or a single converter. They can also be a double converter. Similarly, the active can be a single converter or a double converter. Is the point clear? Yes, everyone? Yes or no? You can write it in the chat box. ये बहुत important question है. This is, you will find, is a part of a question paper directly or indirectly. They may ask you it as a single converter transponder, double converter transponder, or ask you as transparent transponder, active transponder. Even they can ask you a transponder for a C band, transponder for a K band. The same question can be asked in a different way. Okay, now coming to the next thing that I covered, yes, the transponder that I have already covered, the 612 4 gigahertz, as I told you, the 225. So I have taken it's a mistake. It's yeah, it's 2 gigahertz approximately. So the redundancy is provided for a high power amplifier in each transponder by including the high HPA that you saw in the diagram for your repeaters. They are the traveling wave tube amplifiers or a solid state amplifiers, and the lifetime of the high power amplifiers is limited and represent the least reliable component. So normally what is happening is we already have, although you may see it as the 1 HPA, but there is always a standby arrangement for this, so that if one system fails, because what is happening when we talk about satellite is your system once launched, you cannot actually go and repair it or change any part. So what is to be done is you need to have a standby arrangement. We'll come to this point in reliability. That is how the reliability of the system increases, so that even if one part fails, you have a standby, or you have the backup system, maybe like this, a parallel system, so that once fails, you have the other system through which your signal can be actually transmitted and reaching the output terminal. Okay, so that okay. Now coming to the next part that I covered was the telemetry and tracking control, TTC. And now I have added the term M with it, so that one important point gets cleared is, although I told you that this tracking of the satellite and the monitoring is done on the Earth station, but still it is important to understand. That day I only explained you the telemetry and the command part on the satellite. It's better to visualize as how is it connected with the Earth station is. So the satellite, as I told you that day, has a telemetry which consists of various sensors sensing the various parameters on the satellite, which could be current, which could be fuel, which could be power generation, which could be the signal modulation, or whatever, current being produced or the heat being produced. There could be various sensors, and these sensors actually send these signals to the Earth station. A continuous beacon is being sent, or continuous signal is being sent. The modulation technique that is used is a PSK, and it requires, as I told you that day, requires a small bandwidth. So once this signal is received, this telemetry signal is not only used for the data processing that day I told you, but also for tracking the satellite at the Earth station, which says that whether you are receiving the right power, or depending upon the telemetry signal regarding the location of the satellite in the orbit, you could have a tracking system which could be actually changing the position of the receiving antenna, so that it is actually continuously tracking the satellite. Now, once the telemetry sensor signals are received, as I told you that day, the signals being sent to the Earth station, they are again processed at the Earth station, and depending upon the inputs received, the signal or action plan that is to be conducted is generated, which could be with respect to the attitude, orbit control, or various parameters. Now, these control signals are sent to the command transmitter at the Earth station, which sends it back to the satellite. Then regarding the command being received, I told you that this command is decoded, and this command is actually heavily encoded, so that nobody can actually try to hack your signal and try to harm your satellite. So what is done is, even after taking lot of security measures, although the command that is received is heavily encrypted, but still after decoding, again it is sent back to the Earth station to find out whether the command that has been received is correct or not. Once it has decoded and found that the command is correct, the execution signal is sent from the Earth station to the satellite. That is, a verification process is done, and then you have the command being executed. Okay, this I told you. I even told you with the diagram. So it's the same representation that I have taken. So the theory, as I told you, many sensors are there. Several hundreds of sensors monitoring pressure, fuel, voltage, current in the power conditioning system, current drawn, critical voltages. So the temperature of many subsystem must be kept between the pre. So all this is done by telemetry system. PSK is used for sending the signal, and at the controlling earth station, the computer is used to monitor and decode the telemetry signals, and even the alarms are sounded in case the parameters go outside the mm, uh, allowed limit. Now, as far as tracking is concerned, I told you that the telemetry signal is only used. So it could be from the various sensors, maybe sensing the orbital parameters, the velocity, the acceleration, the frequency being sent and being received, the range, the delays in the pulse. So all these actually help us to determine whether the satellite is on track, and with the help of the sensors, the telemetry signal only is used for tracking by the earth station, and then accordingly the earth station antennas are either changed, or in case the satellite is moving away from its predetermined orbital parameters, the command is sent to it so that it is coming back to the required parameters by initiating the jet streams. Then, as I already told, so the command is for attitude control, the corrections in the orbit and control of the communication. Also for, as I told you, jet stream controlling, attitude control, solar panel control, apogeic motor control. So all these control commands are executed by the command, and as lot of encryptions are used, and it's heavily encrypted so that nobody can hack it and harm the satellite. So the command is sent in a time division multiplexing frame, and in the process of verification, approximately 5 to 10 seconds of delays are there, but that is important to avoid any risk and loss of the satellite. Then coming to the next part, this much we have already covered. I even covered the propulsion, right? So this I just wanted to show you as the part of the satellite, which I did not cover last time was. So there is a kick motor. Now the propellant tank, as I told you, a tank which holds the fuel, and the commands help it to take it to wherever the kick motors or the injection motors are installed, so that you can actually give a push or a pressure to the satellite so that it is on track. The antenna feeds the thermal radiator, so a heat sink kind of a thing, or temperatures. The HPAs, the traveling tube amplifiers, as I told you. Now, important thing is propellants we already covered. The two things which I want to show you is this: the battery pack. This is nickel cadmium batteries that we use in the satellite. Now, the next point that I want to cover is the power. Now, the power that we are able to use on the satellite is, one everyone knows, is a solar panel. So an array of solar panels is there on the surface of a cylindrical. This shape is called as a cylindrical satellite. So the array is there. So the portion which is towards the sun is actually generating the power, and away is not able to generate. When the aging, this power or the efficiency of the solar panels. So this is the first one. This what you see is all the solar panels that are placed, and it is continuously spinning. Like Earth is not only revolving around the sun, but also rotating on its axis. Similarly, these satellites are also revolving around the earth and also spinning on their axis, because to stabilize it. So when it is spinning, these solar panels get exposed to the sun, a portion of it, not definitely the whole of it, but a portion of it, and accordingly the power is being generated. So this platform that you see is actually revolving and de-spinning. Both the actions are taking place so that the antennas are continuously pointing toward, because this satellite surface is continuously rotating on the axis in this platform. We call it as a de-spin platform, which you will see, right? So de-spin, right? De-spin repeater shelf. So this is what it is here, so that the antennas are continuously pointing. So it is revolving in the opposite direction, and this is rotating. Now, as I told you that this will have a limited power generation, because only the portion of the satellite which is towards the sun will be able to generate the power. So to overcome this, what was done is these non-cylindrical satellites were made which had the solar panel sails. These are called as solar sails. Okay, so these solar panels, and with the sensors, they, as I have already told you, telemetry and command, they were always pointing towards the sun and had the maximum power generation. But the problem with the solar panels is they have an efficiency of only 20 to 25%. And with the aging, this power generation is reducing. So what is happening is, maybe after some time, what will happen is you are not able to generate the required power. So to overcome that, normally in the design of a solar panels, we all have 15% extra array being installed, so that you are actually able to generate the required amount of power. Okay, so that is very important. Now the power, as I told you, the power system, majorly it is solar panels which are helping to convert the incident sunlight into an electrical. Plus there is backup power, which we call it as the batteries which I showed you. They are the nickel cadmium batteries which are used in case the satellite is in the eclipse region, or reducing, very less power is being generated, and actually it is continuously pointing these. Yeah, the command also, as I told you, are not only used when the satellite is in the orbit, but they are also used while the satellite is being launched, about various parameters, whether the inclination is correct or not. So that is very important. I just want to first show you these videos before we again. Both the things were visible in our video that I showed you. Was one was a circular that I told you, the Sputnik was the first one which had the silicon solar panel placed on its surface. This is called as a cylindrical. तो इसके कहाँ पे place होंगी satellite? They will be placed on the surface. ये जैसा surface है ना, इसके ऊपर placed है. So what is happening is, जो भी surface sun को expose होगा, suppose this is my sun. Okay, this is my sun. Only the portion which is actually in front of the sun will be able to produce the power. The remaining which is at the back will not be able to produce the power. So इसमें efficiency or the power generation is limited to only that much area which is exposed. So even though it has large number of solar panels placed on it, but the utilization is less depending upon the portion exposed to the sun. This is the cylindrical या circular, या मैं अगर इसको spherical भी बोलूं तो भी surface के ऊपर ही है. Now what did I told you that जब satellite अपने orbit में revolve कर रहा है earth के around, it is not only revolving on the orbit but it is also spinning. जैसे आपका earth क्या है, rotation as well as revolution है, same thing आपका satellite का भी है. It's revolving around the earth and rotating on its axis. This is to stabilize it, otherwise it will be unstabilized. So this is a stabilization technique, that it is spinning. We call it as a spin stabilization. But अगर वो spin करेगा तो क्या होगा, ये antennas भी change होंगे, एंटीना का भी डायरेक्शन स्पिन होगा ना. बट क्या है, अगर मुझे कम्युनिकेशन करनी है किसी पोर्शन से तो क्या करना होगा, इट शुड बी ऑलवेज पॉइंटेड टुवर्ड्स इट. So this antenna is placed on a platform which is actually revolving in a direction opposite to the rotation. अगर मेरा rotation ये direction में है तो de-spinning क्या होगा, opposite. तो उसके कारण क्या, जिस स्पीड में आप रोटेट कर रहे हो वन डायरेक्शन में, उसी स्पीड पे ये डी स्पिन हो रहा है, तो रिलेटिव मोशन क्या हुई एंटीना की? नो चेंज इन इट, so it is always pointing towards the earth. The next thing that I told you was, the next thing is I told you this is called as a non-cylindrical or non-spherical. ये क्यूब या क्यूबॉइड जैसा बड़ा सा आपका रेक्टेंगल है. So इसमें क्या होता है, सोलर पैनल्स दे आर इन द फॉर्म ऑफ अ सेल्स, जो आप अपने सन की रेज के हिसाब से टिल्ट कर सकते हो, ऑलवेज पॉइंटिंग टूवर्ड्स सन रख सकते हो, सो कि आपका जितने सोलर पैनल्स हैं वो सब आपके यूज होके मैक्सिमम पावर जनरेशन हो सके. ओके, इज इट क्लियर नाउ? यही आपका डाउट था? हाँ, अभी इसके बाद मैंने जो वीडियो दिखाया, दैट वाज जस्ट टू शो यू हाउ द सोलर पैनल्स आर ओरिएंटेड and the advantage. The second thing that was to tell you was what is the material used for making the solar panels. One is initially was the silicon wafers, then it was crystalline wafers, and now presently the technique that is used for making these solar cells, because of the high efficiency and the delayed aging effect, is the gallium arsenide, right?
Yes.
So the advantage is we are able to save the fuel. The sun is a powerful source of energy. और geostationary में जो आपका नाइट टाइम जो बोलते हैं ना, वो ऐसा होता ही नहीं. Always there is a power being generated and the intensity is 1.39 kilowatt per meter square. So as I told you, it is 20 to 25% is the efficiency, and we always keep 15% extra. Okay, and we can generate up to 6 kilowatt of power, right, using these solar panels. But the only thing is the material that we are using has to have a property that it does not change its characteristics with being exposed to very high temperature and very low. When the solar rays are falling on the solar panels, the temperature are very high, and when the the sunlight is not falling, it is becoming very cold. So there is a drastic temperature variations, and the material that we choose should be able to withstand both the temperatures and also not change its efficiency or characteristics with the change in the temperature. So that is how we choose the correct material. Otherwise what happens is you have a fast aging effect and losing in the efficiency. Now coming to the stabilization, as I told you that there are two types of satellites. One is a cylindrical satellite and the other is a non-cylindrical satellite. For both we use a different method of stabilization. One is, as I told you, for cylindrical, we use a spin stabilization where the satellite is simply revolving on its orbit at a certain speed and also spinning or rotating on its axis, not only revolving in the orbit but rotating on the axis, so that it maintains its stable orientation with respect to the Earth. But the disadvantage of it is that only the solar panels being exposed to the sun are able to generate the power, and the power is less as compared to the non-spherical satellite. But non-spherical, as you know, it's very easy to stabilize the spherical or a cylindrical satellite, but it is difficult to actually stabilize a non-spherical. So usko stabilize karne ke liye what we do is we use a 3-axis stabilization. So that day I was talking about the flywheel effect, which you said you have done it in mechanics. The same principle is used in satellite stabilization with respect to its orientation with respect to the Earth. Is we use three metal loads, and the spinning of those loads actually help us to stabilize the satellite. Now these three loads are oriented around the three directions. They are called as yaw, roll and pitch. Yaw. Yaw is nothing but the direction from the center of the satellite to the center of the earth. Roll is a direction which is tangential to the orbital plane, and pitch is a direction perpendicular to the orbital plane, right? So instead of x, y, z, which you have been see x, y, z, that is just shown to tell you that they are not what you have uh, been using on the ground. We are not talking about three different parameters: yaw, roll and pitch. Yaw being oriented as a direction from the center of the satellite to the center of the earth. Roll is a tangential to the orbital plane. Pitch is perpendicular. Now we have three metal weights oriented in the direction of yaw, roll and pitch. And as soon as we place the satellite, something else was talked about in the video was the corrections, right? So in the corrections you require certain power. So as soon as your satellite is launched into the orbit, these flywheels which are connected along the three axes are given a spin, and as we are in a zero gravity condition, what will happen? Will they stop or will they continue spinning? Can anyone tell me? Metal weights are given a spin in a zero gravity condition. Will they continue to spin or will they stop after some time? Yes, they will continue spinning because you are in a zero gravity condition, and once you give it a force, it's inertia. A body will continue to move until a force is acted upon it. So what is happening is no force, no friction is acting on it. These flywheels will continue to move and will help us to keep the satellite in a stable position. This is called as three-axis stabilization. Okay. So what is done is there are two ways to make the satellite stable in the orbit is the body of the satellite must be rotated at a rate between 30 to 100 rpm. That provides the stability of the spin axis and makes it pointing in the same direction, such as satellite is called as spinners, right? As I told you, the spin stabilization, it is nothing but giving a spin to the satellite. अभी हमने जो किया flywheel के साथ वही चीज, the moment you have a cylindrical satellite placed into the orbit, you give it a spin and it will continue to spin because no force is acting on it. But still, with the weather condition or the storms or some radiations from the sun, there could be a change in its parameter, but still it will continue to maintain. So what is happening is, I told you in the last classes, we have two methods to actually control the attitude. The first is an active attitude, attitude control. That is, as soon as I find that the satellite is moving away from its orbital parameters, you have a jet stream which will actually give it a push and bring it back. But that requires lot of fuel. And the other was a passive, where we use a flywheel effect, right? I told you that day. Now this is a combination of both, that is an active as well as passive. Active is we have jet streams that is to be used in case there are deviation from the orbit, but to maintain the orbit we have the flywheel stabilization or spin stabilization. So the spin stabilization is for the cylindrical satellite, and the three-axis stabilization using the flywheel concept is for the non-cylindrical satellite. Okay, is it clear? This is again important. You are asked about the methods of attitude control, or you are asked to explain the three-axis attitude control. So your role and pitch, is it clear? They are different from X, Y, and Z. There are something used for referencing of the satellite in the space with respect to the orbital plane, with respect to the center of the earth. The momentum wheel is usually a solid metal, as I told you, driven by a motor. there must be one momentum wheel for each 3 axes. As I told you, there will be 3 flywheels that will be connected, 3 metal weights that will be disc or the that will be connected to give a momentum to and to stabilize it with respect to the 3 axes. And the two types of motors that we use is bipropellant and the arc jet. This I have already covered. Okay, now orbit control is you have a plane, right? What is an orbital? It's a plane which is decided by the inclination and the other orientation with respect to the earth. Now the gravitational pull of the sun and the moon cause the change in the inclination of an orbital plane. And the other forces, as I told you, which are acting in the space are the solar radiation, the storms in the sun, and other things which also try to change the orbital plane. And this for orbit to be truly geostationary, it must lie in the equatorial plane um, and the correct attitude. But what happens is, as I told you, this is supposed to be an orbital plane, but what is happening is you have a certain inclination or there is some change in it. So what has to be done is, as soon as the satellite is launched into the orbit, as I told you, the first parameter which will be deciding its inclination is the point from which it is being launched, as well as the other effect on the orbital plane because of the various parameters that the satellite had to come across while revolving in the orbit. So again, these parameters are sensed and the changes are done in the orbital parameters. So they are done with the help of the jetsters, as I told you, and it was visible in the video also. The third part of the next part of your satellite is antenna. Now the type of antennas that we use on a satellite, majorly it is the horn antennas, but the other antennas that we use are the wire antennas, the reflectors, and the array antennas. Now, horn antennas, what are they? Is basically, as the name says, they are in the shape of a horn. And the reason, when you are connecting between the waveguide and you have a larger aperture, right? You have the horn antenna which is in the shape. So what is happening is, because of this, when the waveguide is connected here, it is like connecting your waveguide and to a larger aperture very smoothly. And in this process, it also increases the coverage area. That is the reason why we use the horn antennas, and even they are used as feeds in a sense that if you have a reflector, what is happening is reflector will give you, these are the parabolic reflectors, they will give you a parallel ray, the if and good again if the whole surface is used. But normally what happens is only a particular portion of this surface is used, and therefore what is happening is you are actually losing on the efficiency. But if we feed the signal to this through a horn antenna, what is happening is it has got whole surface being covered and an improved efficiency. So sometimes rather than using a curved surface, we also use the feed antenna to illuminate, that we say, the whole surface so that the efficiency is increased. Is the point clear? Yes, the horn antennas and the major use of the horn antenna is it's like matching, right? Matching impedance, you remember? So it is matching between the waveguide and the free space without much harm to the signal, as well as giving it a large coverage area. Now the wire antennas, they are primarily for very high frequencies and ultra high frequencies, and they are positioned with the great care on the body of an antenna to provide it an omnidirectional coverage. That is very important, and their major use is during the launching of the satellite, because at that time you need to still communicate with the earth, but when the spacecraft is moving or the satellite is moving, you should not lose the communication. So basically they are used for that particular purpose, and this is the radiation pattern. Similarly, these are the horn antennas. The shapes, the aperture could be circular or rectangular. The circular has some polarization effect on the signal, and therefore we use these kind of antennas. The reflector antennas, as I told you, I have already told you about the reflector antennas. These reflector antennas, they are usually illuminated, as I said, with the help of the horn antennas, and have got a large coverage as compared to the horn antennas. They are also called as parabolic reflectors. So this is what I was telling you, the parabolic reflectors, the feed antenna, and the larger coverage, giving it a larger efficiency. Now the array antennas, as the word says, is you have multiple arrays. Normally what is happening is, if you want to have a communication, say this is my coverage area, and I want to have a separate communication with every area. So definitely I need to have a different frequency and a different sending. So you need to have an array of antenna which could be, say, communicating with the each area. So it is also called as a multiple beams. So one beam, instead of one beam, you have multiple beams coming, this beam communicating with this area, this beam communicating with this area, this beam communicating with this area. So multiple beams are formed by combining the radiation from several small elements made of dipoles or horns. The Iridium Global Star use these kinds of antenna to generate 16 beams from a single aperture for their LEO mobile. So now till now we have seen all the various components of a satellite, be it repeater, antenna, the propulsion system, the power system. All this we have seen. Now the most important part of a satellite, as I told you, that is that you cannot go and repair any component if it fails. So it is very important to have the reliability in your system, so that if any part of it fails, still the satellite continues to work, and we do not lose the large amount of investment that we have done. We all have seen how sad everyone was when the Vikram lander failed. Although it was only the 10% part of the mission, 90% was successful. This 10% was what was actually, after losing a contact with it, there was no control over it. So at any point you should not be losing the contact with your satellite, and having a full control over satellite is very important. So that is where the equipment reliability is important. In case one system fails, you need to create the backups. Those backups may definitely be, there will be a cost involved in it, there will be a weight involved in it, but that much is important, for because you want to increase the life of the system and also the working of the system. Okay, so the components that make up the satellite must therefore have a very high reliability. Okay, repairing is not possible. So the two approaches are space quantification of every part of the satellite to ensure that it has a long expectancy in the orbit, and redundancy. So one part is, I told you about redundancies, creating the backups, adding the additional components so that the system continues to work even when the one component fails. And second thing is rigorous testing under the similar condition, that is before launching the satellite into the space, under the same condition, like the satellite will be there in the space, whatever be the worst conditions, we do a testing of the satellite on the earth before launching it into the space, so that in case there are any failures, you know what could be the cause of the failure. You can rectify you can rectify it on the earth, and then replace it with the components that will have a long life expectancy in the orbit where it has to work. Okay, so two important parts of reliability are redundancy and testing. Okay, so space quantification is the basically under the zero gravity condition. Temperature variations are the condition, as I told you. Then when the satellite is being exposed to the sun, it has a very high temperature, and when it is in the shadow region, it is under very cold condition. So there is a drastic change in temperature, and you know that this may create stress and strains on your device, and a small crack in a semiconductor device will deteriorate its performance or may result in the failure. Therefore, you need to be using the material which has got a long life under the condition where it will be working. The heat of the sun, the power being generated, zero gravity conditions, and large temperature variations. So is by screening the component, selecting the right component, testing the components is very important, and then each component is tested individually to ensure it's meets the specifications and the quality. There is a high quality control that is involved in it, and to ensure that the system is reliable. And once the individual component and subsystem has been quantified, the complete satellite must be tested. Okay, so the three prototype models are often built and tested. It's not that one model. We have the three model being tested before you actually decide on what will be the right design for making a particular satellite, because any failure is resulting in loss of not only revenue but lot of life may be involved. We have already seen a case of Kalpana Chawla where there was a loss of 8 big scientists because of small errors, and that is where the testing was not done properly. Okay, so temperature cycle, all that I have already covered. Now, this is the reliability curve for space quantification. Is what are the points of failures in the life of a satellite? There are two points of high probability of failure. Is one is in the early life, and one is at the end of the life. This is as expected that after the lifetime of the satellite, what is a lifetime or a mission time? The lifetime or the mission time, the lifetime of the mission time is, you define that this satellite will work for, say, this satellite will say work for 10 years. So after 10 years, even if the performance deteriorates or the satellite comes to an end, it's as expected. Okay, now after this it's as expected. So this is called as a high probability of failure. This is because of wear and tear, right? Wear and tear, this is because it has ended, and that was the expected time when the satellite will be, actually the components may be aging and they may not be working as required. But any failure in this area is actually not expected, because this is in the early period of your satellite that you don't expect any deteriorate performance. But this is because of improper testing, because you did not test certain parameters, and this resulted in, maybe while launching or maybe while in the atmosphere, the components fail, or there was no properly testing of all components, so some components fail and there is a failure probability is high. So this problem is only because of the testing. And in this area, which is we call it as the major lifetime, any loss is there that could be random in nature and no specific reason, as you can say that something unexpected happens or some thing which is not predicted about the atmosphere, that could be the only reason, and it is random in nature and not fixed. Okay, so the probability is very low. Only these are the 2 points of high, and the shape is like a bathtub, so we call it as a bathtub curve, or the reliability bathtub curve is the word used for this curve, where there is a high probability of failure in the early stage life of a satellite, which could be because of improper testing. And we need to, and this definitely can be overcome by improving the redundancy and giving time for the proper testing. And this is because of you basically cannot control it. You definitely can control, and you cannot control this particular area. The reliability of a component can be expressed as a probability in the time, and the electronic components are the major reason for the losses after the life period because of their aging or overburn or over running. And therefore the expression for the reliability is the number of surviving components at any time upon number of components at the test starting of the test procedure, right? After the test procedure, how much is the component still surviving, that will give us. So what will be the best value of reliability? 1. Yes. When the number of surviving components at the end of a testing is equal to the number of components at the start, then you have the best system. Time before the failure is nothing but the time after which the device, the summation of the time means multiple testing. When you are doing the multiple, the time after which the device fails upon the number of the components that are there, and this lambda is 1 upon the mean time before the failure. Lambda is mean time, and the reliability is e to power of minus lambda t. Now redundancy, as I told you, how do we create a redundancy? By creating the number of components that will be means basically creating a backup by adding additional components in the system. So this is how we have the redundancy is like for every component. If this is my, suppose my system, for every I can have, instead of having a series, because in series what is happening is if one component fail, the whole system will fail. So instead of having series, we prefer the parallel combination. You know that if this path fails, this is the path available for the signal to actually go. So this is how we create the redundancy in the system. For each component there is a backup, but that will actually create lot of. Now this completes our the space segment, where we covered all the components of the satellite that are there, along with the how to increase the reliability. Had it been on the earth station, do you think it's necessary to create a redundancy? Not required, because what is happening is in case we have some failures, we have the provision to actually do the maintenance and replace that component, rather than creating or including the component right from the beginning for a backup. So that is not required. But when it comes to satellite, you need to have a highly reliable system, and therefore a rigorous testing under the environment where the satellite will be, and having additional components will is necessary. Now coming to the second part of the chapter, that is an earth segment. So the first question that I have is, what do you think are the um basically what you will consider while designing an earth station? I've listed some. Do you think of something else other than these? One is When I say type of service, it is either FSS, MSS, fixed satellite service, mobile satellite service, and the last is the broadcasting satellite service. One is depending upon the service, your earth station will vary. We have already seen the configuration of the earth station for the different services. When it is fixed, it is less complicated. When it is mobile, it is highly complicated. And broadcasting satellite service is the simply it's like a receive earth station, right? For the fixed satellite service, it can be transmit as well as receive. It is again transmit as well as receive. This is only receiving earth station. Then the type of communication, whether you want to have telephony, whether you want to have a data transmission, or whether you want to have or streaming videos. Okay, what kind of information that you want to send, that is the type of communication will decide our earth station. Then the required baseband quality, definitely there is the quality is important. That is what type of quality do you want? That means depending upon the signal to noise ratio. So the higher is the signal to noise ratio, the more complicated or more costly will be the system. The traffic requirements, whether you have a light traffic or a heavy data rate that is required, will again decide what kind of earth station and the cost and reliability. One more thing that I missed out in this is actually the size. Okay, the size is actually decided by the gain G by T ratio. What is the G by T ratio? Or basically the earth stations are quantified like a small earth station, like the one which you have on your house, that is the Tata Sky. That's again an earth station that's receiving a signal, that's having a small antenna. That's a small earth station. And you must have seen the transmitters at the TV centers. They are big reflectors. They are the big earth station. So the small earth station has small G by T, and the big earth station have got a large G by T. So G by T is also one of the factor which decides the size of the earth station. Can anyone add to this what I have written as what will be the design consideration while designing an earth station? Can anyone tell me what is first thing is, do you know what is an earth station? You can unmute and tell me. What is an earth station? You are talking about, or what are the components of an earth segment? Yes, are you there? Why nobody is answering? हाँ बताओ, अर्थ स्टेशन के क्या कंपोनेंट्स है? Noise free communication is a design consideration, yes. Noise free is coming under the signal to noise ratio, right? So noise, lesser is the noise, the higher is your signal to noise ratio. So noise free consideration comes under the quality. Okay, very good. What else? Antenna, very good. Antenna and antenna efficiency, that is your G by T. The antenna size and antenna efficiency, the gain is decided by the G. Very good. What else? Antenna and antenna efficiency. Yeah, good coverage area. Yes, the important part of an earth segment is not only your earth station but also the coverage area. So actually when I talk about an earth station, I will not say that it will be coverage area, because it has to be very directional. right? I'm communicating with a particular satellite. It has to be very highly directional so that your signal from an earth station reaches the only satellite with whom you want to communicate. Okay. Yes, the transmitter, the power of the transmitter, that is a very important consideration as how much power will be transmitted. So G, the gain will tell us that how much power is being transmitted. The reflector is nothing but the antenna. Very good. So these are very important considerations while designing. Basically, if I say any transmit and receive, basically earth station, is it only transmit or is it only receive? It can be both, right? It can be transmit and receive. It can be only receive, or it could be only, all the three options are there. The earth station can be of any of the form: only receive, only transmit and receive. Okay. So depending upon the type of service, the type of data communication, the type of signal requirement, the quality of the signal, the data rate that it is handling, the cost, the reliability, the size of the antenna, we are designing the earth station. So although I say you have an earth station on the top of your building, that is also an earth station, which is small earth station, and there is an earth station which is there at the broadcasting center. That's a big earth station. Okay. Okay. So the earth station mainly has earth segment basically has two earth station. One could be the transmitting and the other could be an receiving earth station. The transmitting earth station transmits the information signal to the satellite, whereas the receiving receives the information from the satellite. The type of modulation that are used is FM modulation, FSK, PSK, that are being used by the transmitting earth station. And designing of the earth station depends upon the location of the earth station, but also on some other factors which I considered, whether the earth station is on land, sea, or aircraft. So let us see a block diagram of an earth station. So this is an earth station which is both the transmit and receive type. So this is a terrestrial network. Say the signal is being received. You have a baseband signal, say multiple. You have a say a multiplexer or combining. You encode the signal, the modulating and up converting. So what could be the baseband signal? It is being up converted to the frequency for transmission. Then you have an high power amplifier and antenna through which you are transmitting the signal to the satellite. Okay. From the satellite, when you receive the signal, the earth station receives the signal. This is what happens is, at the receiver, the first block is always a low noise amplifier, which gives the signal to the tracking system to find out whether the satellite is in the correct location. And the next part about retrieving the information is it converts it into down converts it into your intermediate frequency, and intermediate frequency then demodulated, then decoded, and you again recover your baseband signal, which is sent to the user. So this is nothing but a simple block diagram of a transmitter and receiver that you have studied in principles of communication. Only thing is, if the earth station is transmit and receive type, this is the earth station which you have, which will transmit the signal by converting or encoding your baseband signal, modulating, converting it to an up frequency, high power amplifier. We know that it is the last stage of any transmitter. And through the antenna, the signal is transmitted to the satellite. And from the satellite, when the signal is received, the first stage is a low noise amplifier, down conversion to intermediate frequency, demodulation, decoding, retrieving the baseband signal and sending it to the user destination. At the input, at the receiving point, we also have a tracking system which is in the feedback loop, so that always the antenna is pointing towards the satellite in case there is a signal quality deterioration. Now we can easily understand the subsystems. तो हमको दिख गए क्या क्या है हमारे receiver के and transmitter के the subsystem and the tracking subsystem is there. So we need to understand each subsystem. Actually उसकी जरूरत नहीं है. You already have studied all these subsystems in details in your communication. So intermediate frequency, as you know, is important because it helps us to do all the processing at a low frequency and hence reduces the cost of the system involved in it. The up converter is important so that the frequency for transmission you are able to generate. At the receiver, you have a low noise down converter. And now the earth station, the antennas are the parabolic reflectors that we have seen in our satellite also. They are the similar reflectors like, and again we can have the feed system on it that will have a higher efficiency. The gain of these reflectors are high, and with the feed system we further improve its efficiency by using the whole of the reflector system. Now regarding the tracking subsystem, now what does a tracking subsystem? One is an automatic, there are two parts of it, is acquisition of the signal and tracking of the satellite. So what is happening is there is a continuous signal being sent, the signal is received. Depending upon the power level, we decide whether the signal is having a low power or high power, and depending upon this, we do the tracking using automatic tracking, manual tracking, and program tracking. Now, what is an automatic tracking? Is nothing but, say you have an earth station. There will be a beam being transmitted, and this beam is actually continuously rotating in a circular. So as in case the signal is proper, you will be getting a equal power from every location. In case the satellite is deviated, at one point you will get a high power and the other point you will get a low power. So that's an indicator that you have lost a track of the satellite, and you need to, the way the radar does now, similarly conical tracking that we are doing, automatically it does and gives us. Manual tracking is in case you find that the signal power is less, then accordingly, depending upon the satellite future location, there is lot of lookup tables looking at it. The network controller switches the direction of the satellite, earth station towards the satellite. And the program is, this action of manual tracking is actually done by the computer depending upon all the lookup tables that it and future predictions. It actually always keep on continuously changing the antenna position, and so that it is always tracking towards the satellite. So receive only, as I told you, already told you that the earth station can be of the type receive only, receive and transmit only. So receive only कौन सा होगा? जो आपके घर पे है, right? The cable operators, the dish TVs that we have at our home, that is a simple receive only home TV system, and it works on the CU band. From our one output we will get the C band, and the other output will be a mesh type of reflector, can be used for focusing the signal into a dual feed horn. It is having two separate output. I'll just show you the diagram. Normally so it is receive antenna, the low noise amplifier. This is the signal being received. Then the first is an amplifier, the tracking, filter and down converter, intermediate frequency, demodulator, and you get it to your TV. So this is the simple, the one we have already seen, the same diagram, only one part of it is from the receiver. We have the signal being received at the TV. So it is receive only. The outdoor unit will have a low noise converter, and it is nothing but a combination of a parabolic reflector and a horn antenna. Have you seen this horn antenna on or a feed? Always you will see that there is a parabolic reflector and a feed at this point through a mechanical support. There is a feed which is there to illuminate your reflector. In case you have not seen it, today you should go and see your dish TV antennas, which has a feed antenna, horn antenna, as well as the parabolic. The indoor unit of this receive only with the frequency of this signal lies between 900 to 1400 megahertz. The intermediate frequency is 70 megahertz, and the frequency modulation is used in direct broadcast TV, whereas amplitude modulation in the now community antenna TV, there what is happening is you have a common antenna, a receiver that is receiving the signal. Maybe in a building you could have a common receiving signal, and then you could have received you could break them into the channels and send it to all the users. The master antenna television, it is means that the TV connection outlets from one master antenna, the way we have in our houses now is dish TV. One will be a master connection, and the other is you can take multiple connections, like you can have two connections in your house, right? So it's not that you take two connection, one is a master connection, and from there you are given the connection to the other. So that way we have it in hotels and schools, the cluster based residential areas. So always there will be a master antenna television, and the others will be kind of receiving the subsections of it. So this is set up for it. You have your master, and then it is being transmitted to every home in the society or the building. The community antenna, it is also on a similar concept. Is you have one community antenna on a hill, and that is being distributing basically the signal to all the rather than having one receiver earth station at each, it can be used to send. Today we started with the power system. So power is on a satellite is with the solar panels and the backup batteries. So backup batteries are only used when you have no power being generated, because the satellite is in the eclipse region, and maximum power generation is done using the solar panels, solar arrays, and these are to be made with the material which gives you a high efficiency, as well as they should be able to sustain and perform even in the drastic temperature conditions. Okay. And then to generate the required power, we always have a 15% extra solar panels being put up. There are two type of satellites. One is a cylindrical satellite and a non-cylindrical satellite. We need to stabilize these satellite in the orbit. That is done through an attitude and orbit control system. There are two type of stabilization. One is 3-axis stabilization, and the other is a spin stabilization. For a cylindrical satellite, you need to have a spin stabilization where the satellite is spinning on its axis while revolving around the earth. And in 3-axis stabilization, you have a metal disc or a metal weight in the three directions of your roll and pitch, which are moved as soon as the satellite is placed in the orbit, so that they maintain the satellite stable in that particular orbit. Orbit controls, orbital plane also is not stable. It is getting changed with the gravitational pull of the sun and the moon and the atmospheric conditions. We need to track it and keep it constant using the thrusters. The satellite antennas are the wire antennas. They are the omnidirectional antennas normally used while launching, because when you are launching, you need to have an omnidirectional communication so that you receive the signal continuously. Horn antennas are majorly used on your satellite because it acts like a matching between the waveguide and into the free space, and they are a good device to connect the signal from the waveguide into with a larger aperture, they have a large coverage area. They are not only used as a simple antenna but also as a part of reflector antenna to feed it, so that it has got a large surface illumination and a better efficiency and a higher gain. The array antenna is in case you need to have a communication, different communication with different areas. We use the beam, multiple beam signals, and each beam is transmitted through a different antenna, and we can communicate with a different area in antenna. Then coming to reliability, the since the satellite once launched, you cannot go and do the repairing of it. It's important that the system is reliable with respect to its component as well, and that for that we need to do two things. One is rigorous testing depending on the space quantification the satellite will be in the environment, and the second is the redundancy, that is adding additional components, critical components, so that you have an improved performance even if one component fails. So the reliability curve says that there are two major points of high probability of failure. Is once in the initial life, that is because you have not electronic component failures and you have not done the testing properly. And one is after the mission time or the lifetime of the satellite, that is with the aging, the component starts performing less, and even the power is not being generated, and therefore the life ends. So this is actually expected, but this we need to avoid by having increasing the rigorous testing, creating redundancy in the system. That is the reliability definition is number of surviving components upon number of components at the start. The best value is 1, and this redundancy, creating the redundancy is either we create it for the each component that may be costlier, or you may have for the group of components. Next comes is the ground segment, the earth segment. It consists of the earth station. So how do we, considerations of design consideration of earth station is depending upon the type of service, the type of communication. Type of service is fixed satellite service, mobile satellite service, or broadcasting satellite services. And the type of communication could be telephony, data, or video streaming, could be your information that you want to transmit. The required baseband quality, that is a signal to noise ratio, as somebody said, a high quality signal that you require, and the traffic requirement, that is the data rate that it has to transmit, the cost and reliability of the system, and also I talked about the size, which is decided by G by T. So for small earth station, it's a small G by T. For large earth station, it's a large G by T. So type of modulation that can be used is FM, FSK, PSK. So this is a diagram, block diagram representation of a transmit and receive type of an earth station. So for a transmit, you have first a modulation, up conversion, high power amplifiers, and through the antenna it is being transmitted. The antennas are similar to are the parabolic antennas that we use with a feed, either placed the way we have seen in the receiving earth station. Then at the transmit side, we have a low noise amplifier, the down converter, intermediate frequency, demodulator, decoder. This is already clear. Then regarding the antenna, I told you it's a parabolic reflector for tracking subsystem. We need to actually acquire the signal and track the signal. So acquisition and tracking, that is done by with the help of an automatic tracking, manual tracking, and program tracking. In automatic tracking, you can have a conical tracking that is similar to a radar, where the beam is being revolving around the receiving signal, and depending on the power levels being received, it decides whether the position of the antenna is correct or it needs to change. Or manual tracking, it is done by the network operator, and the programming tracking, the computer itself tracks the signal and accordingly takes the decision depending upon the position of the satellite by initiating the stepper motor used to move the antennas of the earth station. So it's a C-band. This we have already seen. The indoor only receive we have seen. Then we can have a community antenna where one antenna outdoor unit is receiving the signal. Then the master TV antenna TV. Again, it's one antenna receiving and the other are just connections from it. And the community is where you are in a remote area, you have a big earth station receiving it rather than everyone is having one big earth station. And then from there we can have a distribution point.